So it's just an interesting difference in radio and podcasting in that sense. I like it. I like it. It's different, and right now it's just once a week, so I get done with it, and then I go like, okay, I can chill for a week and find topics again for the next show and see what worked logistically or what could be different or something like that. But it's definitely not the same, and it just made me think of the whole thing we were talking about last week about podcasters and how podcasters feel like they're broadcasters, and it's not necessarily so. There are some podcasters that are broadcasters; they're very good at it, and then there are podcasters that are just terrible, and I don't think they'd last 2 seconds on radio or hosting a TV broadcast show, whatever it is, where you have to. There has to be some kind of format to it, and your stories have to be concise and make sense, have a beginning, middle, and an end. I see a lot of people have problems with that. And then here's another thing, and I brought this up obviously before. You have to have something to talk about. That's an interesting concept for some podcasters. They just don't seem to have anything to talk about. So it's the thought that some of these people can just go to radio is interesting, because I've noticed a few podcasters have been chatting, a little chatter in the podcast ranks since I got a radio gig, that maybe that's in the cards for them. Maybe they can get a radio show. I've broken that ice. I think they see it. I've shoved my foot in the door, and all of them can follow me into the radio world. No. Some of them can. Some are talented. Others, oof. I know there's people like John, Stuttering John. He's a little angry. He did his last show, and I guess, Shuley and Uncle Rico and the guys were talking about it last night. Or it was during my show, so I couldn't watch live. But I watched after. I was just dying laughing. Oh my God. He's just the worst. He's terrible. And he's mad. Like, he brings up, Bucky. Bucky. They put him on ABC. This guy's a racist, Jew hater. So because he's mad. He professes to do a political show. By the way, that was his show that they were reviewing last night. Was his last show he said he's doing, and it was his political show. And I swear to you, I know this dummy. I know him. This was like his resume. He saw that I somehow, being the terrible person I am, got a job on broadcast radio on a conservative political talk radio station. And John is like, why? I'm the politics guy. I've done politics shows. Why? I'm getting the call. Where's my phone call? Because you're terrible at it, John. You're not good. He's not good at much of anything. And he sees that I got the gig talking about politics. And that's what he's been, trying to do. And I haven't even been trying. For the past 11 years, I just turn on the mic and the camera and I talk about what's going on in the world. But he's been, actively seeking a gig like Opie, the same kind of thing. They're very similar, those two. It's quite astounding. So John he's angry at that. So of course he's got to shit on me and what I'm doing and take to social media and try to get me thrown off by putting the names and links and contacts to my bosses and my company and everything. telling what an awful person I am. Yeah, John did this. John did that. I saw the tweets. They're still up there, I guess. Thank God my bosses don't give a flying fuck, especially for the likes of Stuttering John Melendez's opinion on my show. So he's just, what a asshole. To do that, to really try to get me fired. You know, we've called him asshole. We've talked about his dabbling in stand-up comedy and his lack of ability to write anything funny. His digital panhandling, where he'll go on and all he cares about is super chats. And then when he doesn't get something and someone else does, his initial response is, well, let me try to him over out of his job, which he did. All of his posts about what an awful, terrible person I am were directly connected and linked to my bosses and company and everyone else that was involved. So, you know, that's a special kind of scumbag that would try to do something like that. Do we goof on John? Of course we do. Of course. Do we try to get his gigs canceled? Of course not. Why would we want to ruin future material for us and Uncle Rico and who are these podcasts? Why would we want to say, hey, let's get his gig canceled? We want that gig to happen. We want to be able to listen to how unbelievably untalented this piece of shit is going up on a stand-up comedy stage and doing jokes that are literally 30 years old, that are relevant to him and Howard or Jay Leno and stuff, 20, 30-year-old references. He did one joke where the punchline was that his son was 5. That was a punchline. My son, and he's 5. He wrote that joke when his son was 5. I think his son is now at Harvard or something. He's a college student. So, you know, no talent, no ability. He's lazy. And again, I don't care about that. I find that funny. But when you try to get someone fired from their job and you're just literally trying to rat someone out on social media and linking people, bosses, and what, it just, there's no bigger internet scumbag. I put him neck and neck with child predators. If you're on the internet trying to get a 13-year-old girl, you're just as bad as Stuttering John and trying to get people fired. Yeah, he's just a scumbag asshole. He's clown shoes. Anyway, yeah, I'm talking about that. I will be on Shuli's show tonight, but it's Aunt Karen. It's the Aunt Karen show, which is the show based around Kevin Brennan. Because Kevin's another one that just, he's lost his mind. He is definitely in a death spiral, a mental breakdown completely. I watched a documentary that came out, I guess, 3 years ago on Brennan last night. I was just going around. I'm like, okay, this seems a little interesting. So I put it on. And it's definitely shitting on him. Like, the narrator's funny. He just shits on him. It's not like a documentary. He sounds like a documentarian where he would narrate the documentary and be, you know, and here's the phase that he went through but he goes, and here's where this jackass or this guy alienates everyone that ever has tried to do anything for him or he's worked with. So it's kind of funny in that respect. But you don't realize early on in his early stand-up days and when he did have some heat, which he did for a time, he seemed almost sane. You know, he was funny on stage. He did stand up. And I think you could call him, he was a handsome man. Like, for a comic especially. Comics aren't known for their dashing good looks. Full head of hair, you know, he was kind of thin, without that puffy alcoholism face. But people seem to like him. And then just, I guess, the animosity that his brother, because the documentary says his brother kind of latched on to him, to Kevin. And when Kevin would go around New York City, his brother would tag along with him, and he would meet these people like Dave Chappelle. And then in time, I guess his brother has a greater capacity to socialize than Kevin does. And he was able to network himself and got through some of the doors that were being shut in Kevin's face because Kevin was such an asshole to people. And then that animosity and jealousy and envy just built up and took its toll physically and mentally on the guy. And you're left with, well, what we have now, a screaming mental patient begging for money and shitting on anyone and everyone he even comes across on a casual basis. It's an interesting take, but yeah. So Shuli's doing Aunt Karen, which is great. Uncle Rico, Aunt Karen, I get it. So I'll be on that show tonight. I will not forget. I will not go out to dinner. It's at 7:00 tonight, so I have an hour to just grab something to eat, and then I'm back on with Shuli and company for the Aunt Karen show.